Good morning, students. This is Mrs. Sati Joseph, your moral science teacher. Welcome back to the online teaching for the session 2020-21. Have you all purchased your moral science textbook? I hope so. If anybody is left out, purchase it soon. All of you go to your midterm exam timetable now. This time, moral science also will be there, and questions will be purely MCQ based. So I won't give you any question answers. You have to read the lessons nicely and prepare the questions your own. Your portion for moral science exam, lesson 1, 2 and 3. So lessons 1, 2 and 3 will be coming in the exam. I am very happy to see that many of you are watching moral science video. Thank you so much. Till the end of the session, if you develop at least one moral value in your life, I think I did some good job for you. I'll get a kind of satisfaction in my life. Let us start a new lesson, that is lesson number 3. What are you doing? Mr. Pro was a regular columnist in the local newspaper, the Daily Reporter. He enjoyed poking his nose into other people's life, and he was indeed paid well for doing so. One day, he decided to do some reporting on how students consider their studies. To begin with, he walked into the house of a friend across the road. As luck would have it, he found his friend's little son sitting at his lessons. He started his probing business straight away. So Mr. Probe was a columnist. What do you mean by columnist? It means one who writes regular articles in a newspaper. So Mr. Probe was a person who writes regular articles in a newspaper. He was a daily reporter, and he enjoyed poking his nose into other people's life. Means he always tried to interfere in others' matters, even though it does not concern him. Among you also many will be there. Some will be there, not many. Isn't it? Interfering in others' matters. One day, he decided to do some reporting on how students consider their studies. So, he walked into the house of a friend. Luckily, he saw his friend's little son sitting and studying. So, as usual, he started his probing business. Mr. Probe, good morning, Sunny. What are you doing? So he asked the little child, what you are doing. The boy looked up at the intruder, annoyed. He always hated Mr. Rob's poking questions. So, what was the name of the little boy? Sunny. Okay. So, Sunny looked up at Mr. Probe. What is the meaning of intruder? Intruder means a person who enters a place without permission or often secretly. So this boy felt very angry on this person. He doesn't like him. Boy, what does it matter to you? And now, if you really want to know what I am doing here, I can tell you. I sit here and hatch this chair for hours. They think I am studying, but I just sit and mug all this school stuff called subjects. I am content to do a lot of blooming homeworks. There is no end to it. I have to do all this to please my nagging parents and a few cranky teachers. They simply don't understand me. I hate this lousy business of studying. So Sunny was very angry. He asked Mr. Pro, what does it matter to you? If you want to know what I am doing here, I will tell you. I am sitting on this chair for hours. Can't you see? I am studying. My irritating parents, nagging means irritating. They are compelling me to do my studies. I am doing my homework given by some of my cranky teachers. Cranky means person with strange ideas or behaves in a strange way. I don't like the business of studying. Lousy means very bad. Mr. Prob felt a little embarrassed at the rash way the boy reacted. He scurried away from that unhappy kid and entered another house. There he found a little girl sitting at her study desk. When this Mr. Probe heard the reply of Sunny, he felt very bad, very uncomfortable. Embarrassed means uncomfortable. So he turned quickly away from that unhappy kid. Then he went to another house. There he saw a little girl sitting at her study desk. Mr. Prob, excuse me, dear, what are you doing here? The girl raised her large twinkling eyes and spoke. Girl, you know, uncle, I'm studying. So Mr. Prob asked this little girl that what she is doing. Then she replied, Uncle, I am studying. Mr. Prob, do you enjoy studying? Girl, in a way, yes, but I love to go out and play much more. Mr. Prob, then why don't you go out and play? Girl, I love my parents. They want me to study. Uncle, don't you think that my parents know what is good for me? Mr. Prob asked the girl, are you enjoying studying? Then what was her reply? In a way, yes. But I love to go out and play much more. I want to play also. Then he asked, why don't you go out and play? What was the girl's reply? I love my parents. They want me to study. My parents know what is good for me. Mr. Prob, of course they do. Let me ask you one question. How many of you are enjoying your studies? Mr. Prob felt a little delighted by the girl's attitude. With a happy heart, he walked past a third house. Suddenly, his eyes caught the sight of a young boy sitting under the tree, doing his lessons. Curiously, Mr. Prob approached the boy. So, by hearing the reply of the little girl, Mr. Prop felt delighted, or he became extremely happy. He pleased with the little girl. Then he walked to another house. Suddenly, his eyes caught the sight of a young boy sitting under the tree and doing his lessons. He asked, "Hello, friend, what are you doing?" Young boy, "I am getting ready." Mr. Pro, "Ready for what?" "For exams." Young boy, "Yes, and much more. I am preparing myself to help build a better world." Mr. Pro, "That is interesting. Tell me more." Young boy, "Deep down in my heart, a voice keeps telling me that I have a destiny to fulfill in this world. I want to leave this world a little better than I found it. I am studying and getting ready for this." He repeated the same question to the third boy also. "What are you doing?" What the young boy said, "I am getting ready for the exams." Then Mr. Prob asked to say something more about his studies. He replied, "I am preparing myself to help build a better world. Deep down in my heart, a voice keeps telling me that I have a destiny to fulfill in this world." Destiny, what is the meaning of destiny? The things that happen to you in your life. So, deep in my heart, I can hear a voice that it tells me that I had to fulfill this in this world. I had to fulfill my destiny. I want to leave this world a little better than I found it. So I'm studying and getting ready for this. Mr. Prabhu was an enlightened man now. Next day, his article appeared in the newspaper. It was titled, "What Are You Doing?" Now, Mr. Probe became an enlightened man. Enlightened means having an understanding of people's needs. Prabhuth or Jankar. So, in the next day, he wrote an article in the newspaper. What was the title of that article? "What are you doing?" Now tell me, my dear students, my dear children, why do students study? Why you are studying? Do you enjoy your studies? If you are enjoying, what happiness do you find in your studies? Is there any of your co-students who wouldn't like to study? Do students study regularly or only at exam time? Are they slaves to examinations? So many questions are there. Are those who study hard subject to ridicule? What is the general attitude of students towards other students? Can you answer for these questions? Okay, many of you may be interested in your studies and you are doing your studies regularly. But some are there only at the examination time, open the textbook and sit for studies. Only for the examination. Write the examination, get the marks and promote to the other class. Only for that purpose some of you are studying. Children spend many years of their precious life in school, attending classes and studying various subjects. However, the present day education system does not make study a meaningful and enjoyable experience. In the given setup, students busy themselves in cramming and worrying about exams. Students' attitude to study and education, their fire remains negative rather than positive. In the present system of education, it does not make study a meaningful and enjoyable experience. It is a time of competition. You have to do hard work, then only you can get a good opportunity for higher education, also to get a job. You are spending many of the years, many of your precious years in your life in school, attending classes and studying various subjects. You are busy with your studies, your coachings, going schools, preparing for the exams. You're not getting a sufficient time for enjoying your life, like playing, watching the TV, spending time with your friends, etc. So, what happens? Students' attitude to study and education therefore remains negative rather than positive. There is a craze to spend so much of hard-earned money and energy and time without creating a positive attitude in the students towards their study. Study is mostly considered as a precondition to obtain a degree, which in turn becomes a ticket to enter the job market. People who thus come out of schools and colleges lack the ability to do any work on their own. During the years of their study, they are made so dependent on books, teachers, and parents that they just do not have any aptitude for independence and progress. They remain passes in the world which looks up to them for leadership and initiative. Education must help in linking the students to reality. So, in the world of competitions, people are simply spending money, energy, and time without creating a positive attitude. Instead of enjoying the studies only for getting a degree which will make you to get a ticket to enter the job market, students are doing the studies. So what happens? They can't be independent in their life. They can't do any work their own. Only bookish knowledge is there. They depend on their teachers and parents. They can't do any productive work their own. Study must make a man translate his knowledge into life. For this, he must have a wide knowledge of this world as well as a broad mental horizon which enables him to think rationally and act wisely. Education must give him an ability to know himself and the needs of the others. It should link him to the social culture. It must make him humble and service minded. Study makes a man or fill a man with knowledge, and he must make this knowledge to translate into his life. He should have a wide knowledge of the world as well as a broad mental horizon. Education must give him an ability to know himself and the needs of the others. He should know about himself and the need of others. He should link himself to the social culture. And education must make him humble and service minded. Whenever people are in need, you have to ready to help them. You have to be very humble. The aim of study is to help one, build one to know one's character. The previous videos, I told you that the aim of study is not only to learn some subject like math, science, etc., but it focuses on the character formation of the child. The first and foremost aim of the studies is the character formation. It implies that education must become a means to enable one's potentialities and then enable him to utilize them to the full. It should make one rise above the mundane level to a spiritual sphere where he becomes a liberated person. Such a person becomes an enlightened human being. So education must enable a child to understand his potentialities and to utilize it whenever it is needed. It should make one rise above the mundane level to a spiritual sphere. What do you mean by mundane? Lacking interest or excitement. Mundane means lacking interest or excitement. Such a person becomes an enlightened human being. Means he can understand others' problems and can act whenever it is needed. Education is the possession one can ever have. No world wealth or strength can be compared to it. It makes him a superior being. But this elevated position also places a great responsibility on him. The one who possesses a great gift of education must always defend the truth. He must live for the poor and the weak and give succor to the suffering and the afflicted. The educated person has the noble responsibility of making the world a better place to live in. So, education is the most precious wealth one person can have. No world wealth or strength can be compared to it. If you are educated, it will make you a superior being. Along with that, there are some responsibilities also. The most, if you are highly educated, then you have to defend the truth always. You have to stand for the truth. You must live for the poor and the weak and give support in times of hardship and distress. Succor means support in times of hardship and distress. So you have to support to the suffering and the afflicted. And it is the responsibility of an educated person to make the world a better place to live in. So, what is the summary of this lesson? In this lesson, we had seen the importance of education. If you are educated, you can become a superior human being. Along with that, you have some responsibilities also. You have to always stand for the truth. You have to be ready to help the poor and the weak. You have to give support in times of hardship to the suffering people. And the noble responsibility of an educated person is make the world a better place to live in. This is the end of this video. I'll come with a new lesson in the next video. Till then, thank you and bye-bye.